Hello everyone, and thank you for attending our webinar on Newcomer ELLs. This webinar will specifically focus on the grading guidelines for our students in grades 1 through 5, but I'll also touch upon some ways that you can adapt and modify your lessons for Newcomer ELLs, and also some of the behaviors and the stages of adjustment that newcomers go through as they enter into our school district from another country. Before we talk a little bit about modifying assignments and getting to the grading procedures of our newcomer ELLs, I just want to give some perspective as to who these newcomer students are and who they are in our district. We have about 150 ESL students in our district right now at 6 different magnet schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. About 30% of these students are immigrants, which means by the state of New Jersey, they have been in this country for 3 or less years. For our needs today, we are going to focus specifically on the newcomer ELL student, who is an immigrant but also has several other classifications that come along with it. A newcomer ELL student, like we said, is an immigrant student, but they have been in the U.S. for less than 1 year. And when they register for school, this is their first experience in a U.S. school. For many of our students, they have been in the country for several months before even registering for school. These students come with little to no English background. And at times, they're even coming with limited educational backgrounds. Sometimes our students have moved around from country to country or location to location, and their education has been broken up so that in total, while they might be a 3rd grader, they've only completed about a 1st grade's year of work. These students, most importantly, are at a level 1 language proficiency in reference to the WIDA proficiency levels, which we will get to later in our presentation. Newcomer ELL students have come to the U.S. from their home country, or at times they've moved around the world and visited various locations before coming to our country. In any case, it's a very unsettling time for these students. Particularly at the elementary level, they might not have a full understanding of the move and why they're here, and they might not have had much choice in coming here. In this way, a lot of our students go through the process of acculturation in 4 stages. Stage 1 is a stage of euphoria, and this stage might actually happen before they've entered into your classroom. They feel excited, it's a new adventure. They're optimistic for meeting new friends and tasting new food and trying new things. Maybe they're excited about a new house or the ability to see snow or live by the ocean for the first time. The next stage is culture shock. Many of our ELL students experience this, especially when they register for school. The cultural differences might be extremely different from what they've experienced at their home school. From foods that they might not be familiar with, to routines that they're not familiar with. Maybe the educational programs are not comparable to what they've experienced in their own country. They start to experience feelings of negativity, they're irritable, almost like the stages of grief they compare this to. The 3rd stage is a stage of normalness. You'll see after a few months that your newcomer ELLs have started to find a buddy in the classroom that they feel comfortable sharing with or being silly with. They start to acknowledge some positive aspects of their new culture. They show an interest in what's going on around them. Stage 4 might not even happen in the first year of having these students. It might take that long for them to adopt their new culture and accept their new identity. So these are some typical behaviors of newcomer ELLs that you might recognize in your classroom. You might have a student that's always complaining of physical ailments, whether they have a headache or they're pointing to their tooth or their knee. They need to get to the nurse. They might be exhausted or falling asleep in their chair. Just imagine sitting in a classroom where you don't understand anything that's going on around you. It can be very tiring. These students often have a difficult time paying attention, especially for long periods of time. You might see them wandering with their wandering eyes, looking at the clock or looking out the door, watching what another student is doing. Also, inattentiveness to a lesson. Some of these students actually will act out, especially on the playground. Fidgeting, and also signs of sadness are all typical behaviors that newcomers might experience as they go through these 4 stages of acculturation. As I talked about in one of our first slides, we said that newcomer ELLs, among other things, are level 1 language proficiency. So I just wanted to take a moment to explain to you what exactly that means. There are a variety of WIDA performance definitions, and they range from 1 entering to 6 reaching. These performance definitions explain an English language learner's process and how they understand or produce language from the time they start learning English to the point that they're becoming fluent both socially and academically. As you can see over here, the level 1 students should be able to do these things. They should be able to utter words or phrases or chunks of language, answer some W questions, such as who, what. They should be able to communicate by pointing, by using visuals to represent some of their language or some of their words. In front of you, you have your packet of can-do descriptors with grade level clusters 1 to 2 and 3 to 5. These can-do descriptors outline what you can expect from your ESL student at level 1 through level 5. Specifically today, we're focusing on level 1 for our newcomer ELL students. I want you to really look closely at your reading and your writing level 1 can-do descriptors. This is an example of grade cluster 1 to 2. For reading, you can expect your newcomer ELL to be able to identify symbols, icons, and environmental print, connect print to visuals, match real-life objects to labels, and follow directions using diagrams or pictures. For writing, you would expect your newcomer ELL to progress to copywritten language, maybe use their first language to help them form words in English. Spelling phonetically using the sounds of their home language would be a great first step at the level 1 proficiency level. You would hope that your ELL would start to communicate through drawings and pictures and be able to label objects in the classroom. Using these can-do descriptors, you can modify your assignments and create assessments to find out if your newcomer ELL is making progress academically in English. Having a newcomer ELL student is not easy, especially at the upper grade levels where you might be working on reading short chapter books and your newcomer ELL doesn't have any literacy skills in English yet. These can-do descriptors can help you find meaningful ways to make assignments for ELLs where they will gain some academic knowledge and also language skills. Here, I have some activities that you could use with your level 1 students. I've also included some level 2 activities because as the year progresses, some students may move on to level 2 of the ELL proficiency level of language acquisition. Communicating with your ESL teacher, as you normally do on a daily basis, she will be able to communicate to you and you could share your observations to find out how your student is progressing from level 1 or to level 2 in order to modify work appropriately. But let's take a look at some level 1 activities that you could do with your students. Whether you're working on a social studies or a science activity, you could pick out 5 vocabulary words in a story or in your lesson. Have the student use a picture dictionary to copy a definition or to draw a picture of that definition. You can do this on an index card and make a ring of these index cards to practice. and then later on be able to assess the student on the vocabulary words, either by pointing to them or having the student repeat and match the words with the pictures. You can also copy sentences from a story, read them aloud together, drawing a map of a classroom, and then having the student label objects in the classroom. You can have the student create their own picture dictionary, where they might write the word, draw a picture, and then copy a definition. Filling in an alphabet chart. Some of our students come from countries where the English alphabet is not comparable to their alphabet at home. Completing a number grid, picking one word that you want the student to recognize and have them identify that word as they read through a story, either by circling, highlighting, using a post-it note every time that word appears. Also, as the student moves closer to a level 2 student, have them complete a simple close activity using words and pictures. The idea is to limit the amount of content that you expect the student to know, but still hold them accountable for learning and going through the process. From your level 2 students, you might have them sort words into families, either by a theme, such as family members or animals, or by phoneme, as in sounds, chunking words. You can have them write simple sentences or take notes using a model that you've already provided. Practice sight words in context and use pictures to help explain them. Use graphic organizers. Complete modeled sentence starters such as I like, I can. Or have them write descriptions of people and places. So now that we have an idea of who our newcomer ELL students are, some of the behaviors you might witness in your classroom, and a little bit of the background behind the can-do descriptors and the English language proficiency levels, we're going to talk a little bit about grading our newcomers using these can-do descriptors. Specifically, you can look at the reading and writing section of your can-do descriptors. We included the speaking and listening just so you have a reference of what you can expect out of your students. Not that you're grading them on their speaking or listening skills, but when you're creating assessments or when you're communicating with them, at least you have an idea of what to expect and how to communicate effectively with these students. These are the guidelines for grading our newcomer ELL students. These guidelines can be used with math, English language arts, social studies, and science. These grading procedures can be used for the first year that the student has entered into school. All newcomer ELL students should receive a grade for all 4 core subjects. Use the can-do descriptors to determine what the student's progress is. For example, using the can-do descriptor, it says that a student should be able to copy written language and match pictures to print. Is this student making progress and able to do these activities? Have your modified assignments been productive? Is the student able to complete the work successfully? All student work should be assessed based on the modifications you're providing in class. These modified assignments help you form your grade and can be created using those can-do descriptors we talked about for the level 1 students. These are the grading guidelines we'd like to use on the report card for newcomer ELL students. Your newcomer ELLs are going to receive 1 of 2 grades, an S for satisfactory progress and an N indicating that they still need more improvement. Your S students will show that they meet expectations based on their language level of level 1 that we discussed and the modified assignments that you created using those can-do descriptors for reading and writing. When you assign an S to either the math, science, social studies, or English language arts, you're also going to write a comment in the comment section of the report card that indicates that the child is making progress, but it's based on specific assignments that have been modified to their language level. Here's a comment that you can use and take it verbatim right from this presentation and insert into your report card. As a newcomer ESL student, your child is making satisfactory progress in the content areas of science, English language arts, social studies, and math, based on the English language proficiency expectations for his or her level. Now, the reason why we left a little space and put areas of based on the English language proficiency expectations is that some students come with a strong foundation in mathematics, for instance. Usually math is easier for students to grasp. If your student is performing at a level in which you do not have to modify the work for language, you do not have to. So if you've modified the work for English language arts, science, and social studies, include those 3 subjects down at the comment level. However, if you have not modified for the math, you can just grade as you've graded your other students and leave that subject area out of the comment for language proficiency. Now, your N students are the students who do not meet expectations or they've shown limited progress since being in school. These students, you're going to assign the grade of an N with a reference in the comment section to their language level and the subjects that you've been modifying. A comment that you could use is, as a newcomer ESL student, your child shows a need for improvement in the content areas of science, social studies, math, English language arts, as he is not making adequate progress based on the English language proficiency expectations for his level. So these 2 grades are the only grades that you're going to be putting into a newcomer ELL's report card in the 4 core subject areas. You are still going to assign grades for social skills, and in the comment we really encourage you to note about how the student is adjusting to their new environment as you normally would with another student. As ESL teachers, we truly recognize how difficult it is to have a newcomer ELL come into your classroom. You're already modifying work for so many other students at various needs, and now you have a student who doesn't speak or understand English. We created these guidelines to help answer some of the questions we hear often from teachers who have newcomer ELLs, such as, how do I grade assignments of my newcomer ELL students when they cannot complete any of the work that the other students are doing? If I modify their work, can I grade them based on those modifications, or do I have to grade them based on the work that they are not able to complete? So these grading procedures that we came up with explain that you can grade your students based on the work that you've modified for them. The work you've modified is coming from the can-do descriptors at the level 1 or sometimes level 2 area as your student progresses throughout the year. You want to look at the reading and writing can-do descriptors and use that to help generate assignments that are meaningful for the student in class. We really want to give this student a sense of confidence and acceptance in their new environment. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to reach out to us. We are a resource for you. You can email us or stop by our classrooms at any point. Thank you so much for attending our webinar, and we look forward to working with you and our ESL students.